Good afternoon, collectors, and welcome to Leighton's Loft, our weekly podcast on cards, candy, and life.
Candy, yes.
Swedish fish.
Grape Swedish fish.
I was so excited. We talked the other. Crosby does this. Like, I don't know if your sons did this to you, or your son did this to you when he was young, Lou. Mm-hmm. But 3 times a day, it's always, Dad, what's your favorite Pokemon? Dad, what's your favorite candy? What's your least favorite candy? Dad, what's your least favorite Pokemon?
Yeah.
And so we were talking about candy the other day, and I said, Crosby, you know Daddy loves Swedish fish. And he said, grape. And I said, how do you know about grape? And he said, Daddy, it's tough to find grape. So wow. He's paying attention.
Yeah, he really is. What's his favorite candy?
I would say, candy, he loves ice cream. Candy, yeah, probably Swedish fish like his dad.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. But he doesn't really know about the grape, phenomenon. He just hears everything.
Yeah.
What's going on, Mike, Matt, James, Jeff, Nick, Lucas, Chris Coe, Salted Caramels. What's up, James Phillips? Double Us, Chris H. Welcome, everybody. Hope you're all having a good day today. Wednesday, middle of the week. Some call it Hump Day. I just look at it as it is another day in the journey. Thankful to be here. And, Lou, just before, 4:34? So up until 4:29 or 4:30, I was talking to a very exciting collection. We'll just say it's in the United States. And this does not happen often, Lou.
I resisted the urge to listen in, by the way.
It's all good.
J5 and I muted the mic. We want you to be able to do business.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, what up, Rocco? So the gentleman, let's just say his family, they have a collection that belonged to not only to the father, like the grandfather, but then the father.
Oh.
So it's not just stuff from the 30s, but it's stuff from the 50s also.
Wow.
And I don't want to get crazy, but like the condition on some of it looks very exciting.
And there are some big cards, I would imagine, in there too, right?
Yes, there is. I'm being vague on purpose because I know that, nothing is guaranteed, right?
Yep.
But these folks came recommended to us, and, we explained to them, just like anyone else, how our process works. And, I'll tell you, it's funny, moving away from that deal for just a minute and talk about, because, really, I've been like hot and heavy with cards and deals all day. What's up, Dom? What's going on, Ken? Is no matter how many times you tell someone, it could be a dad, it could be the son, the daughter, an esteemed professor. This is my point. It does not matter.
Right.
But when you talk about money, all rational thinking goes out the window.
Absolutely. Yep.
So, and I don't believe this person watches our show, and if he does, I don't think he's going to think that I'm saying anything wrong. It just is. So we're talking, and this is, let's just say their family bought some cards a little while ago that have appreciated, graded, and they're pursuing, selling some of them, and they should pursue it because the market's moved.
Right.
And so I could say it till I'm blue in the face, Lou, when I meet someone, this is how I work, this is how I operate. I always start with the retail value. So that way, if we have a meeting of the mind, you've heard me say this shtick, Lou.
Sure.
Yep. We have a meeting of the minds about the value. Then, of course, if I don't offer enough, maybe you won't take it. But at least if we agree on the value, we have a good starting point and jumping off, and maybe we can reach a deal.
At that point, you're just talking about your margin and how reasonable your margin is.
Yeah, listen, exactly. And to be fair, right, risk, because if a card's ungraded versus graded and all that good stuff. And, so it did not matter that I said very slowly, what's up, Bri? Hey, I want to talk about the retail value first. As soon as I mentioned the value and the numbers, all rational thinking went out the window. And the gentleman said to me, all right, well, we would sell it for that. And I said, and I was like, really, I'm good at this, but I also enjoy it. I like connecting with people. And I said, please help me, tell me like where I went wrong.
Yeah.
Because I really tried hard to explain to you that this is not what I would be able to offer.
Right.
But in fact, the way I start every transaction, and Lou, for whatever it's worth, it's a six-figure deal, so it's not some potatoes.
Yeah.
So you understand that, like, even though the offer is a lot of money, it's like there's not enough money in there to be wrong.
Right.
So and so it was just so interesting because they weren't trying to do anything wrong. They just, and I don't know what it is. People just, as soon as they hear that first, estimate or range, awesome, really excited to get paid that amount.
Can I ask you? You probably don't know. What did they do? What did the lead person do for a living?
So I'm not sure. The person I spoke with may be retired.
Okay.
And the other person may be in football, we'll just say.
Okay. My point is, unless you've run a business, you don't think of things like risk and margin and, costs associated with actually, receiving and selling the items.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, Lou, and it was funny because I said to this gentleman that you can't see the half smirk on my face, but in a good way. So as we started to talk about it a little bit more, and he understood and asked questions about what I was saying, he said, well, Leighton, doesn't eBay charge a fee? I said, exactly. Mm-hmm. I said, so I understand that what I'm offering you, and this is what it's, and I realize this is self-serving in the sense of like, hey, this is a deal for just collect. Yep. But understand, like, that's the first time I've mentioned, other than Leighton's Loft today in the first few minutes, either vintage breaks or just collect. And the reason why I'm saying that is I think this is a good lesson for us all. Hey, what up, Connor? That when you're talking with folks, I don't care if it's at the convention, if it's at an antique shop, if it's at your mom's mahjong group, someone will refer to you from your Uncle Benny, right? You can barely hear out of his left ear. Like whatever the case may be, and I'm being sincere, but I know you guys can tell this, that ultimately you want to give factual information. And so I was trying to explain to, and this is a different gentleman, hey, like for whatever it's worth, like I charge for appraisal services if you want to do this only for insurance.
Yeah. And
I'm not saying that's wrong, but like if your family's truly investigating what's it worth and what if you may sell it, I look at it as this is goodwill. I'm going to do the work, right? Provide you information, and more often than not, it comes back to serve me well and the company well, Lou. Yeah. But getting back to the general,
they have a six-figure asset there, and aren't thinking about some kind of insurance. That's nuts, especially something as fragile as a card collection.
Yes, and so that's what we started talking about. As I said, even just the act of selling the cards through eBay and the mail, you may think it's easy peasy, but there's risk in everything we do. Mm-hmm. And so we actually talked about, and this is how you know the seller or the family serious. Hey, how would we consummate the transaction? That's like the telltale sign of not that you're going to do a deal,
right?
At the very least, that they're serious, because they're not. Let's say they can't drive easily to New Jersey. Let's just say,
right?
And so I explained to him that right now I'm not comfortable until I'm vaccinated, really flying. Driving, I would, fair but enough. I said if you're comfortable, you could fly up to Newark Airport. And we can either meet you at the airport, or we could meet you at the airport, pick you up, and take you to our office, which is like 25 minutes away. So Chris Coe, that was what I was trying to explain to the gentleman, is that you, even if you do nothing, to be responsible for yourself and your family, you need to take this information I'm providing you and do something about it. Because this is no longer, you can keep the cards in the drawer in the pantry in the home.
Right.
You can, but there's risk now there.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Bri. So anyway, when we got down to it, this is what I really enjoyed, is he asked great questions. So do I, Joseph. He was asking great questions about, well, what does eBay charge? What does PayPal charge? And then I said, not only what they charge, but then there's the risk of, Lou, what happens when it's 17 days later? You got the card, Lou. You're rubbing your belly at night. You're sitting with your woman, or your man for that matter. I don't judge. And, your significant other says, well, where did you get that stuff? Or what's that? What do you have? And then all of a sudden you start in that journey. And so I knew we were in a good spot, Lou. It was funny because basically my estimate to him for his graded cards he said was very accurate. And I take pride in it, right? I work hard. I give a range, and I explain to them that, hey, this is not an exact science. I try to make it a science, but it's not exact.
Yeah, and it also indicated that he had done some previous homework there too, as well.
Yes, another telltale sign that someone's serious about selling.
Yeah. Well, listen, you have a 6-figure asset, and you're thinking of selling it. You got to get serious. I mean, just
absolutely. What up, Billy? Chef, what's shaking? We need some more cookies. So, Lou, that's what was really interesting to me is that I was explaining to this potential seller that even more people right now are getting involved in one way or the other in the hobby. So you have a bunch of people who are coming in, they want to buy more, fractional share companies, funds, individual investors, collectors. And then you have other people who are like, wow, I bought a Jeter SP PSA 9 a few years ago for $3,000, and it went up to $8,000, and I thought that was a lot of money, and now it's selling for $25,000.
Wow.
What? And so you're absolutely right, Matt. The market is moving so fast up and down, and so that should tell you something that anything can happen. Hold on, let me turn the light on here.
Sure. Couple questions back here that we let me get your headset talking. A couple questions.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yep.
We got a first-time listener, Bob Leto.
Hi, Bob.
I think he's on YouTube currently. He says first-time listening live. Love the show and advice given. Bob, you didn't get the bill from us yet, so just wait.
And Bob, let me explain to people. You got to get over. We got 2 streams running on the.
Go ahead, Lou. Yes.
We got 2 streams running on the Vintage Breaks Facebook page and the Vintage Breaks YouTube channel. One has this show just completely on. The other one has that and a chat box by the side. You've got to be on this one and comment on the full screen version to get involved in our giveaways tonight. We want you over here so we can talk about your comments and that type of thing too. We do this so that those other streams will keep going into the breaks tonight so that you can just flip back to that stream and go into the breaks. And, we're trying to make it as convenient for you as possible. But if you're on the stream with just us in a box and there's a chat box to our left, I guess it would be.
Oh, yeah. Corner Records, baby.
Go Karma Records. I love it. And Chris Coe, by the way, Chris Coe, that's especially to you because you always have these great comments and they never show up on our feed. So make sure you get over to the Leighton's Loft Facebook page or make sure you're on the correct feed. Or you can come to the Leighton's Loft Facebook page. That's what we'd really like the page and watch us from there. Dave asks, what percentage of the cards do you acquire in these types of deals do you keep in your possession for 5+ years? And I think an interesting sidebar to that question would be what financial percentage of them? Because I'm guessing you get a collection like this, you kind of peel off the high-end cards, and then a bunch of them will sit around for a while, I would imagine. The lower price, more common cards.
Lou, I take the 5th. I believe that my wife is in the building. And I'm not sure this is in the best interest of Leighton Inc.,
I like it.
Elch Inc., Just Collect, or Vintage Breaks. So, Melch, we'll talk offline anytime you'd like.
Yeah.
Not on something that's going to be able to be played by my attorney wife.
Yeah.
And who's very, very smart and lovely, of course. I got to show you a couple pics. I didn't even put them up on Facebook. So this is a precursor to Facebook. Lou, we went out sledding yesterday. Crosby, myself, and his nurse.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it was fantastic.
But I'm guessing Julie would be much happier with the percentage of the value that goes out as opposed to the number of cards.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So here's Crosby and his nurse. Nice picture.
And let me get it up here. Hang on. There you go.
That's Elena. Crosby. There you go. One time Crosby took the red sled, and Lou was so slippery at the top of the slope of like this big hill where all the kids are going and stuff. He just went down by himself. It was hysterical.
Oh, God.
Let's see. That's a good one.
He must have loved the living hell out of that.
Oh, are you kidding me? Hold on. Let's see. Oh, is this the one where he goes down by? Oh, yeah. This one goes down by himself. Almost hit someone. That was great.
Oh, yeah. He almost ended up on America's Funniest Home Videos right there.
Okay. I thought there was another. Hold on. Where is it? Hold on a second. I just thought there was a.
When my son was about Crosby's age, I nearly killed him because we had an accident where I kind of rolled over the top of him.
Really?
As we flipped over, yeah.
Yeah, you got to watch that. Hold on 1 second. Let me see. Okay, here we go. This is the one. Yeah, so this is Crosby by himself. So there's this big hill in between Maplewood and South Orange, right across from where I play tennis.
Yep.
So how awesome is that? Elena got that when we just slid down together on the same. It was great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we had a nice time.
That's a day he'll never forget. It's just
I felt the same. And this is us walking up in our masks, you know.
Hey.
We had a great time, really did. So anyway, thanks for tuning into the Loft today. As you can see, we talk about cards.
Chris has nice, by the way. Chris says claim attorney-client privilege against your wife.
Yeah, I just thought about it, Lou. Cards, candy, and Crosby.
Yes.
It's pretty good. The 3 C's.
Very nice.
Hey, thanks for moving over, Chris Coe. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
So let me go over the prizes for today. Thank you all for tuning in. We're going to give first place a $50 break credit to vintagebreaks.com. You can spend that any which way you like. Uh-oh. Yeah, John, you got to be careful. You should not show your wife eBay completed auctions. In fact, you should just show her like eBay as it stands and just tell her, honey, all the stuff stays there. No one's really buying. Like, it's just a lot. It's like a show and tell kind of thing. No one really sells.
You know, but on the other hand, Dom's wife isn't really wrong at this point.
Well, prices have been pretty crazy, so I would advise, yes, try to take some money off the table. We got a lot of snow, Rocco. I think we had I don't even know.
Yes, Chris, you're in the right stream. Thank you.
$50 break credit. Lou, second place is going to get a 1960 baseball set break spot. Third place, 65 set break spot. Fourth place is a 69 set break spot. And then 5th through 7th, we'll get a BAM spot, which is a Break-A-Maniacs appreciation spot, and a free chance at a drawing. J5 has the final date towards the end of February. We're going to be giving away $1,500 break credit to vintagebreaks.com. Thanks for tuning in, Robert. Appreciate it. What up, Rick? All right, so I wanted to go through here. All I wrote down, Lou, for my agenda was like one word for each, item, and I figured I'll just be able to run with it.
You're ready. This is exactly the way it's done. Just have.
So first off, have you heard of Clubhouse yet?
Of what?
Clubhouse, not the Clubhouse like in Major League Baseball Clubhouse, but like Clubhouse the app.
No, I have not.
So, has anyone else out there heard about Clubhouse the app? I'm not sure who started it, but it's this thing where you get invited and you start talking. And so I've now done a few different baseball card talks in the last few weeks. Lou, one of the gentlemen Darren Ravel invited me to one of them. So one of the guys who was listening and tuned in wrote me an email after. He's apparently oversees the trading cards for the NBA and was like, Leighton, love what you had to say. How do we educate people who are NBA fans? I'm like, well, I think he appreciated my sense of humor. I'm like, listen, it starts with Michael Jordan. Yep. Like, if you get me together with Michael Jordan, we're going to be able to do some stuff. And so we're supposed to be talking soon about the NBA and the education of vintage and basketball cards in general.
Nice. Well, we'll do a show and do a show on that and have them spread it around, right?
Yes.
Give us all some exposure.
Yeah, it'd be really cool. Eddie, I do see your comments now. So, Rocky, you heard of Clubhouse. Yes, it's voice social platform only, Chris. Co, are you on there? If you are, we should connect. So, Lou, I don't really understand even how I got on there other than one day Julie's cousin Debbie sent me an invite. 2 days later, I'm talking cards with Darren Ravel as a speaker. Last night, I hop on. I came home late from work. I'm not thinking I'm doing any more work. I'm thinking at the very least, right, I'm going to rub my belly. Yep. I'm going to eat a ham sandwich. I'm going to take a break for a few minutes and watch some TV, say hi to Jules. And I get a notification that there's like this new Clubhouse chat starting that so-and-so is speaking Buster, who runs Talk & Shop, and then a bunch of other people. All I do is just go on and check it out. So this is what's cool. So I hop on, Lou, and then they can ask you, invite you to be a speaker. And Lou, who am I to, I'm not going to turn down being a speaker.
God, no.
So it's 11 o'clock at night, and I'm chatting about baseball. I mean, it's like it just doesn't stop.
So is it audio only?
It's audio only, so you don't have to shave, right? You could wear whatever you'd like, or I guess not wear for those who are really into that sort of thing. Chris, knowledge of the value of 84, 85 star sealed set with Jordan. Yeah, send me an image of it. Leighton at justcollect.com. If you could put that in the chat, Lou, I'll be happy to give you a value this afternoon. There's great value in it just being sealed, Chris, but then if it's a little bit better centered in the bag, you'll actually get a premium for it.
Nice. We got to do another one of these shows where people, can show a card for your grading, a grading estimate.
Yes, I think we should potentially do that next week because it seems like that's what I got a lot of, Lou. Questions of people, hey, this is what I have, what should I do? And it was funny because a few of the speakers so this is what's also kind of cool about Clubhouse, Lou. Someone, let's say, is like the forum moderator. So let's say it's Ravel.
Yep.
Ravel invites me and two other people who, like, maybe another guy's a hockey expert and another guy's a memorabilia guy.
Yep.
So now what happens is he has 4 people on his panel, and now you get 37 people who hop in to, like, listen, and people can, like, almost, like, hit a button and say, I have a question, and then, the moderator calls on them. So, so far it's been great because these are people I wouldn't have necessarily met. Like I said, I'm talking to someone super high level at the NBA.
Yep.
It's free advertising, Nick. And it seems to be like someone, I don't know, a guy who started NetJets or like something like that was on there. It was like, you and Ravel should start a concierge service, help people like with it just seemed to be like really good minds. And you're supposed to only talk for about 2 minutes at a time, which obviously is a problem for me. But they do a cattle prod. They have like a new thing. It's like a cattle prod, but they do it through the earpiece. So if I do over 2 minutes, Lou, they just shock me.
I like it. I could use that on several shows, actually.
I figured you might be wanting to, patent something like that.
No, see, I control the mics most of the time. So
yeah, so guys, I'm not, like I said, I'm not really that well versed in Clubhouse yet. I'm honestly flattered that folks have invited me, and like I started talking as a card expert. I mean, I know a lot about cards, but as Ken Golden said the other day in his Instagram chat, he's like, and if you know a lot about cards, he's like, you have a real skill in the world. And he said it in a way that made me laugh because, that's not like, he said also, like, cards are cool now. Like, cards were not cool for a long time.
Yeah. It's amazing how hot these types of apps get so quickly.
Hey, Chris Coe, I'll send you an invite for like maybe an 81 football box. I know you have one on the shelf. Chris Coe said he's not on Clubhouse. He's not cool enough. I got invited by my cousin Debbie, and now she's like sitting in on these chats I give about cards, and I don't even know she collects cards.
See, I haven't got that kind of time. I haven't got that kind of time.
I agree, Lou. For me, I really do look at it as free advertising. For someone to just be in there listening, I think the theory is that they're kind of doing invite only. So these are going to be maybe, experts in the space, access, like frontline access to like maybe someone you wouldn't normally have front. I don't know. Listen, all I know is about ball cards, Lou, and Swedish fish. I don't really know that much.
Although the market is wide open for the commute, for the drive and people driving. This sounds like a great app for the drive.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I'm just reading the comments. Definitely not AB. I've seen Ken's Instagram video breaking down the influx of money coming to the hobby. We can talk about that on today's show as well. It's wild right now what's going on. You're calling it a hobby. I mean, it's a hobby for some, a business for others, investments for others.
Well, I think we say hobby kind of ironically because it's big business.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Lou, so I talked yesterday, I think, by the way, Gary V hopped in our chat yesterday. I'm in the office, and by the way, I'm going to call out J5 here. I didn't do it yesterday with Gary. I don't want to upset the apple cart. So Gary V hops in the chat. J5 doesn't even he lets me know. Not only does J5 not get up, but it almost it's like one of those, if you have a brother or sister and you've ever sat on them or against them and you didn't want them to move. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like J5, as soon as he saw that, it was like this. It was like, oh. I'm not really going anywhere. I'm like, oh, hey, I'd love to hop on there, maybe break a pack and say hi. He's like, oh, it's the great Gary V. How you doing? It was a lot of fun, J5. Hope you enjoyed. So Gary was on there checking out the A6 clear set break. someone just saw, I mean, this is how crazy. And I really
what is Gary V's life like, by the way?
Oh, he works really hard. It's really intense.
But he pops up at all these places. He's like the kid who pops up everywhere,
He does. But we should feel very fortunate. Listen, I would say he's a man of passion, right? He's following what he loves. He can because he can afford to. I don't mean just actually with dollars, but like he's successful at investigating spaces and figuring out kind of like what's going on, not just in cards.
That's what I was kind of getting at, that whole passion thing, because with everything he's got going on, he still has a moment and the passion and the interest to drop into one of these things, right? And he just shows up there occasionally, and he's just got a passion for information. He's an information siphon. He just loves just to talk about things.
Totally agree, Lou. It was great that he was able to spend a few minutes and what's going on with velocity, as Chris Coe was bringing up, is just pretty wild. But I was looking at, and I would mention yesterday in the office, and I
explain the term velocity to me in this case.
Sure. Just like price gains will happen, but the fact that they're happening at the velocity that they're happening, that the cards are going up so quickly, is really kind of crazy.
Yeah.
What's up, Cody?
So the velocity of the gain in prices is what we're talking about. The pace of the pace of the market.
It's nuts right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mentioned the J5 yesterday off air, and then he talked about it on air a little bit yesterday as well. I'm going to give you an example that I did last night. So yeah, if you like something right now that's on eBay and you put it in your cart and you wait to pay for it at night, and I just do that out of habit.
Yeah.
Because it's just easier because you can kind of like pay everything at once versus like doing all these different transactions.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's just easier.
Yeah, it just never occurred to me. Put it in the cart, then I go pay for it.
Yeah, versus like, doing it one at a time.
Sure.
So, and you got to realize, Lou, like maybe if you're only buying a few items, it probably doesn't matter. Lou, there's some days I'm buying like 37 items from eBay.
That makes sense, yeah.
So if I'm buying 37 items, even if it's only a minute a transaction or 30 seconds, like that's real time amount.
They should have a group transaction, shouldn't they?
Don't even get me started. So, as I told J5, it held true again yesterday. So, Lou, I put in my cart, even though I had wrote to this individual, and I wasn't going to definitely buy it, but I was seriously thinking about buying it. I thought it was a good buy. It was a 1996 Kobe Bryant Finest Refractor, PSA 9, and I don't often buy that much modern for big money, but I do love Kobe, and I think his stuff's a good buy. Well, some of it is. Take it easy, Andy. So the only other PSA 9 that was on eBay was $30,000. This one was listed at $20,000, $19,995. I asked the seller if they had any flexibility. He said no. I said, okay. Then I asked, because he said he was in New Jersey. So I figured, hey, if you're in Jersey, even if you don't have flexibility, what up, Dev? Yeah, did you tell me you had a lead to talk about, man? I'm looking forward to hearing from you. I'm making a note down to talk to you after. Basically, Lou, all I was trying to really figure out was, hey, like if the guy's in Jersey and we could meet, even if I convince you, like, hey, man, I'll give you a cash or a cashier's check, whatever, for the equivalent of what you would get less fees, I'm going to still save at $20,000, Lou. I'm going to save $1,800, $2,000. Give or take. Like, that's real money. So, no joke, and this is like the worst fucking feeling in the world, and I had to drop it in there. It wasn't even until this morning. I looked last night as I'm doing my work. I'm like deciding what I'm going to do. If I'm going to buy it, whatever. The card's already fucking gone. It's sold.
Man. He wanted to move quickly. Maybe he needed money very quickly. Although you're right, he would have gotten a car and driven if he needed the money.
Here's the thing, Lou. I don't think it's about needing the money. I think the market's really hot.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm the only person looking to spend $20,000, $5,000, $100,000. I mean, it's just nuts. I like how my brother-in-law Deb just said this. He says he gets cart jacked 3 times a day.
What is that, by the way? Cart jacked.
Well, I don't know. I've just heard it, but basically when someone jacks your cart, when you have something in your eBay cart and you didn't pay for it, you're gonna pay it later, and then someone takes it out of there.
Oh, I see.
Because they buy it. I thought that was kind of a fun way of saying it. Whew.
Oh, Mike asked if you put it in the cart and not pay for it until later, like you said, can somebody buy it and you're out?
Correct. So to be fair, this is what I've started doing. You can add the item to your cart and pay for it later, but that doesn't mean you own it. So you have to literally hit buy it now, as opposed to add the cart. No, understand. Listen, at 20 grand, certainly not a problem. But getting back to this notion of if you buy 37 items, I don't really want to hit buy it now. That's what I was trying to get to, Lou.
Yep.
If you hit buy it now, yes, you own it then, but it's like transactional one at a time. I want to buy 37 items at once,
right?
And pay for it with one checkout.
Yep.
This is by the way going to definitely be here to stay. Justin Price just says he gets VB cart jacked when the promos are hot. I like that. It's a really good. I think we're going to use that for a T-shirt. We have someone who's helping us with that, Lou.
You're doing a $20,000 purchase, and you got to move quick because there are people waiting in line to jump.
Isn't that what I'm saying? That's freaking nuts.
It is. It's absolutely nuts. That's the part about this that surprises me, that there are that many people out there who are sitting on their couch, looking at eBay and going, "Oh yeah, I'll throw 20 grand at that."
I understand, Lou. I do this for a living.
Yeah.
So
well, exactly, yeah.
At least for me, it's like, all right, I'm writing a check for $20,000. It's from the business. Hey, if I keep it, I'm certainly not going to tell Julie. Love you, honey. But that's my point, Lou. It doesn't matter if it's 600, if it's 3,500, if it's 20 grand. If you like the card, buy it right then. It shouldn't be called buy it now. Buy it right then.
Yeah. It's just still stunning to me. Yeah, you do it as a business. That all makes sense. But there are people sitting on the couch just spending 20 grand.
Yep.
Shout
out you for the reporting. I did see that on social media. I was going to talk about that later. Steve Aoki just bought a very, very rare Pokemon card for $420,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's really funny, Dougie. So Melch, if you could bring up this comment from David, it's a really good question. So David's asking regarding market prices. Lou, he's got a good size 45-day like bulk sub of PSA sent well before the price explosion. Am I looking at a lot of upcharges? Is PSA taking into account your initial submission date and their own delayed turnaround time?
Interesting.
Great question. Unfortunately, not. So if you grade a card that was not worth that much before, and it's worth a lot now, and you get the right grade, you will definitely be upcharged. I would just say try to look at the glass half full. Excuse me, that you're getting a valuable card back from them, but I can see how that could be frustrating, Melch.
So you said, say a card that was worth $8 grand in March, and it's 15 grand now. You're getting upcharged.
I mean, maybe not those numbers, but yes, yeah, definitely. I mean, look at 89 Upper Deck Griffies. It's $500 card now to $9. I was buying them for $200.
Yeah,
like not that long ago.
Okay, Daniel says, I'm very cynical about high dollar numbers for players in their second and third seasons. We went through this before in the 80s and 90s with crazy numbers for rookies who never panned out. So, yeah, there's a bit more speculation in in a player early in his career, right, with these modern cards.
Yes. All right, so next is, so cards are on fire. Here's the thing, folks. They won't necessarily always be on fire.
That's right.
We hope they will be. So,
by the way, and it might not be a card-related reason. In other words,
Lou, really well put. Yeah. I mean, I remember what was it called? Operation Desert Storm, in 1980. So I remember sitting in front of it with my father, watching it, and how it impacted the world. And obviously, every conflict and every war impacts the people and time and history differently. But yes, Lou, great point. Forget about the card market itself. There's things outside the card market. What if there's another housing crisis? What if, who knows? There's all sorts of different things that can happen. And I'm not saying this to scare people into selling their cards, to me, which, by the way, I am always buying. But all kidding aside, just try to be smart and take some money off the table. So, if you have, this is the way I look at it. If you have 9 really good cards that have gone up a lot of value, just figure out of those 9, which 3 of those 9 you could sell. And start there. You know, and if 4 doesn't pain you, if 5 of the 9 don't pain you, then great. I get it. I mean, Lou, let's be honest. We're all card nerds in some capacity. Some of us have more passion than others about certain parts. And, like, there's no judgments here. I'm just saying, like, we're all going to be, when I say we, like, as a community, not just a Vintage Breaks community or Just Collect community or Leighton's Loft community, but, like, as card collectors, as a community of card collectors, we all will be upset if we all look at each other in 6 months, in 3 years, and we're like, wow, man, I really should have sold a few of my cards. I could have had $40,000. That could have made a difference in my life. And I'm not saying you should share this with people. I'm just telling you that you should not. Nothing is guaranteed. And I'm not saying this because the market is absolutely on fire. I'm just saying try to take some profits where you can, where it's comfortable for you.
Yeah, and it's funny because the collectibles in general really amplifies this whole behavioral finance part of it, where you're attached to the thing that you decide to sell or not to sell, and it just clouds your judgment as to whether you should sell it or not. And I think we all have to be aware of the emotional impact of, you don't want to sell the card because you don't want to sell the card. You're looking at a real good profit margin here. And, you know, in some cases that's perfectly fine, but in other cases it's just, you've got to examine every case to make sure that your emotions aren't getting in front of what could be an important business decision.
Well put, Lou. Someone on our YouTube channel is asking, they have a 55 mantle. What up, Tristan? In a PSA 5, what's a good asking price? So I just checked for you. Someone's asking about $2,000 on eBay. A couple examples. Looks like they're selling at auction for about $1,500. So, you know, just a little tip, at least for me, about how I price stuff on eBay. If I want something to sell sooner rather than later, I look at the market and that grade. Forget about if it's a nice example for the grade or not. I'm not even counting that. I'll just make sure I'm the cheapest. It doesn't have to be the cheapest by a lot, but people have good common sense. If you're the cheapest card and it's decent, like, they'll buy it if they want that grade. If you want to hang on to your card and be the last to sell it, make it the most expensive. The times you can make exceptions, of course, is when you have eye appeal. You have good eye appeal.
Billy says, my wife gets on me all the time about that. When I complain that something sold that I was watching, she tells me to get out of your wallet. Not usually for cards, though.
Totally understand that. You know, I just mentioned eye appeal, and I want to. Oh, that's interesting. Melcho is looking at his comment about the glass half full. When the market dips in the future, I think this recent hobby explosion introduced cards as an alternative investment option to blah, blah, blah. I wasn't totally agree with you, Melch. I think in general, this is a net gain for the industry. You're getting a lot of new folks coming in. It's going to be great. It's just, you have to let things settle a little bit. And so I just wanted to explain to people that while things are settling, like, you're not always going to be able to sell a 1989 Fleer 4th year Michael Jordan PSA 10 for $3,000. And please, I'm not making fun of anyone who's bought that.
Yep.
Doesn't mean because I don't agree with it, doesn't mean that I think you're an idiot. I'm just simply saying, as a seller, as someone who collects, if you have that card, I'm not saying couldn't go to $5,000. That's not what I'm saying. You should be happy. That's a very healthy number.
Ken says, I don't think prices will crash. There are too many collectors with personal collections. I have no issue paying top dollar for Gary Carter and Keith Hernandez cards that I don't have.
Great. What up, Bobby B? Mark Ferreira asked a really good question. What are good resources for learning grading? So here's the deal. You're not going to really like to hear this. But the best thing to do is to get your hands dirty, grade cards yourself with the grading companies, make a log of what you think they're going to grade, and analyze them when they're going to come back. The problem is that you may be an old man or an old woman by the time you get your cards back. And so that game it's not as effective anymore because you're not getting your cards back as regularly. Right. So for me, Lou, I'm not exaggerating. I mean, I don't even know. I graded myself, like I personally sent in a PSA, tens of thousands of cards myself.
Yep.
So just from that, I learned a lot because I looked at every one of them that came back.
Yeah, so you didn't just put them in and send them off. You took a look and tried to make an estimate and tried to evaluate the card yourself to understand why you got the grade that you got. Yes.
So you could read till you're blue in the face, like psacard.com on their website or on SGC's website or Beckett. They generally have for each grade, Lou, this is, you know, the rough outline of what this card looks like.
Yep.
The thing is, you're just reading words. So if you're reading words, excuse me, and you don't have a card in front of you that's representative of that example, really hard to connect that.
Yeah. Well, because they have to try to put it into some type of word, but there is a lot of art in grading, isn't there? I know they have procedures and I know they have guidelines, but there's a lot of art in it, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you have to know a lot about cards. I mean, I know it's funny. My wife has looked with me like, I don't understand. It's not that much on the cards, like just the surface, the front and the back.
Yeah.
Like, I know. I agree with you. I don't think it's that hard for me, but I've also been doing it for a very long time.
Yep.
So one of the things I wanted to cover is as the market is on fire and going up, people are certainly experiencing FOMO, fear of missing out on a variety of different, whether it be a certain card, whatever the case may be. And so, especially now as I see dollars being attracted to vintage more than ever, I'm not telling you to ignore the price of a card that you're buying. That's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm saying is prices are getting so crazy that if it was me buying vintage, and I don't really care what it is, it could be 50s, 60s, 70s, even an 80s Ricky Henderson. If I'm not able to afford, because of budgetary constraints, the higher grades, so it doesn't matter what the issue is. So if it's 7s, 8s, 9s, or 6, 7s, and 8s, whatever, I'm simply now, if there's no doubt in my mind, go look at the other available inventory. And if we're just going to use eBay as the place you shop, there's not that much inventory. You can shop, it's two distinct ways, I believe. And I shop both ways. But this is my advice. This is the way to shop. If you're not a high-end Lou and gang, if you don't buy the 8s, you don't buy the 9s, you don't buy the 10s. Chris Coe and I were chatting about this recently in regards to like 81 Montanas, et cetera, things like that. Hey, I think 6s are the play. So here's the deal. You look at it two ways. If you're staying away from the high end, you look at all the other material that's available that's left, and you can buy, to me, in only one of two ways. Either one, you buy the best deal. So it could be a 4, it could be a 6, it could be a 2. I don't really care, but it should be fairly obvious to you, especially based on the pricing you see all together. And I'm doing the circle because I'm circling like, when I look for a 68 Clemente, I'm making it up for a set break or for a client or just for me, and I'm not going to buy an 8, 9, or 10. It's so obvious to me, and once again, I've been doing it a while, so I guess I have an advantage. It's so obvious to me in like a second which is the best buy, purely just based on numbers.
Yep.
So that's the first way. And the other way to shop is on eye appeal and disregard the money. So once again, this is a lesson for folks who cannot or will not buy at the 8, 9, 10 level. You either can buy based on economics and buy the best deal. Like you look at all the pricing, you're going to figure out, should be a little apparent to you, seeing that pricing, like what's a good deal based on just numbers. And then if you don't do that, Lou, and I know my buddy Chris Coe loves this, if you can't afford the 7, 8, 9 or 8, 9, 10, and you're not going to just buy based on the number and you want to buy the grade, Lou, I would literally avoid let's just say 7, 8, 9, 10. I would look at every other card. I would ignore the price now. It's really fun to do this. And then I would just pick out the best centered, the best looking example. And sometimes you end up picking a 6. Sometimes you pick a 4. But you don't care about the price. You just buy it because it's a really great example. And what I'm suggesting is I think you can actually do okay right now if you do either one of those. Because if you're buying based on value and numbers and not caring about how it looks for the grade, but just numbers, Lou, there's enough people that are coming in that I think if you're a prudent buyer and you know a lot and you buy like the cheapest, the best value proposition for that 68 Mano, the 66 Clemente that you want to buy, I think it's a great way to shop. But if you are in the second school and you're not necessarily looking for a deal, but you also know that you can't get like the 7, 8, 9, 10, I love doing that. I literally just look for the best example outside of that, and I don't care about the price. So that's my point. Please don't worry if 6s are supposed to sell for $300 and you found one that's really nice that's $360. I'm telling you, your time's worth money. By the time you go and buy that again, it's going to be $400 in this market. I'm not saying forever. I'm saying in this market, if you're being active. So I want to see if that made any sense, Lou.
Yeah, I'm a little bit unclear on the second part about buying on eye appeal. So we're kind of locking out. We're not doing 7, 8s, 9s, and 10s. We're just looking at a bunch of cards, and then you'll go in and just you can. I'm guessing you can search by grade, right?
Well, you can search by grade, yes, or you can just search by grading company. So if you want to just shop for PSA, you can do that. If you want to shop for PSA 7s, you can do that.
Yeah, so you do a PSA 6, and you just, before you look at the price, just scroll through and look at the cards, right? And see which one looks the best to you.
Yes.
Can you do that well on eBay? I'm sorry. Can you do that well on eBay with that photography, and that type of thing? Can you depend?
Yes, you can. Caution to stay away from the folks who have recent really bad feedback or like zero feedback. But yes, Lou, the way you're talking about it, the reason why I don't search by grade is if you search by grade, I have to execute like 7 different searches to search for PSA 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's what I'll do. I'll search by just the card, the grading company, or to be fair, just the card itself. I sort by price, and I figure out, do I want the best card for the money, or do I just care about eye appeal, and I'm going to stay away from the super high grade?
All right, so you'll scroll down, you see one, that one looks nice. You go, oh, it's an 8. I'm not dealing with that, and you just keep going.
Exactly.
Or you look at that one and say, well, that one's nice. Geez, it's only a 4. I wonder how come. It looks nice.
And then like 2 seconds, I know I'm buying it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bobby says, I buy cards to the grade that have the eye potential to be possibly resubmitted for an upgrade.
Yep. I mean, that's what we're talking about with eye appeal. You're buying cards that are well centered, that looks like they maybe should be a grade higher. But there's no automated way to do it. You can only do it with your eyes.
David says, that made 100% sense. Buying a lot of raw vintage cards these days, and much of it is on eye appeal, how it will look in the display. And, again, we're back to, we have to kind of separate the collector from the investor, right? Even though they're never completely separated. If you're buying from more, if you're the bigger piece of your pie is collection, you take the eye appeal and take the value, right?
Absolutely, Lou. Chris Brown from YouTube was saying he looks at the newer grading card companies mid to high grade because there are bargains to be had, in my opinion. Listen, buyer beware on the new grading companies. Obviously, you don't know their expertise. There's not a long track record for their sales. But in general, part of what's also great about staying away from the super high grades, you don't have to you're not playing the game of hey, is my card trimmed or is my card messed with? If you have a 4, it just is what it is, and so I just think that knowing and understanding your goals, it can be overwhelming. I find myself now, because we've all been down this rabbit hole of eBay. I'll actually make a list of some notes before I sit down for an eBay session, because I can end up looking up no kidding, Tom Petty rare T-shirt, right? Because I'm just having a good time. But make a list, and I'll check it twice. So that's just some of my tips, some of my insight, at least of what's going on with the market.
How did you miss this one? Mark says you got a 81 Bird PSA 8 for $5.24 before shipping. How'd that get by you?
Pretty good. I don't know. That's a pretty good job.
And Todd begs the question too. This is an important question too, because as the bottleneck continues here, what about raw cards? So do raw cards get a bigger play, or how do you change your approach to raw cards in this environment?
Oh, I love raw cards. I mean, I have a box of 300 vintage baseball Hall of Famers from the 50s to 70s. I'm working on a hit random for VB. I think in general, Lou, that's what's great about what Todd just said. You can collect at any level. You can buy raw T206s. You can buy raw Mickey Mantles. Now, if you're going to buy that kind of stuff, you want to have an eye. You want to understand authenticity. You want to understand, how to protect yourself, against some of the pitfalls. But there's a lot of great ways to collect, and you can really collect at every budget. It's just that at the higher dollar level, at the investment grade level, the competition is fierce right now.
Yep. Rocco has his wife pick out the nicest looking card.
Smart.
Well, yeah, because it can be smart, because you're not she's not influenced by all the things that we talk about all the time. And, she may not notice that rounded corner if you're looking for eye appeal as much as we would. And there's got to be something about cards that turns you off. Like you just look for it, whether centering really is a thing for you that you don't like. You may overemphasize that more than it should be emphasized.
Totally. Brandon's asking, is it a good idea to buy complete sets, or do those generally get picked over with the best card subs and replaced with fillers? So here's the thing, Brandon. You have to know who you're buying from. Some people are definitely going to, pull the best cards, replace them, whatever the case is. But at the end of the day, and I always, believe the same thing, like when I've been in an auction, it just is. So if you're buying a complete set, don't worry if someone switched cards. Just make sure it's complete. Make sure you're happy with the condition and the price. I do think that whether it be sets or starter sets, they are a really great way to get into a particular issue, because if you start buying like onesies and twosies, Lou, forget about just the actual cost of buying the cards. Shipping starts to add up really fast. Your time ends up, adding up really fast in terms of acquisition. And so there is something to be said for like buying a nice starter set of 1958 Topps baseball with 150 cards, going through them, figuring out which ones you're going to get rid of. And, time is money, right? And even if it's your hobby, if you enjoy your hobby, you can enjoy less of your hobby if you're, dealing with the monotony or the minutia of, having to figure out like how you're going to complete these sets.
But you might take a complete set to help cut into the cost of the card that you're looking for in that set. If you're looking for one particular card, take a complete set. And, I don't know how, I guess it's case by case how the finances work out, but you sell off some of the other cards and help pay for the card that you were really looking for and cut into that card.
Oh, I did that as a kid. Absolutely. Or, you buy a group of cards, and I think that's a great way to do it. In terms of, Mark was asking about selling, and then I wanted to cover the Super Bowl for just a minute. But Mark was asking any suggestions for starting out selling cards. Here's the thing. I would have told you 5 years ago, just sign up for an eBay account, right? And it'll all be hunky-dory. But the reality is the reason why I Just Collect is super busy, and J5 is, all day today. There's nonstop with leads, is because the market's hot, but yet selling is kind of complicated right now. It's not, it is easy in some respects and difficult in others. And so what I mean is you can get your eBay account, you can get a Check Out My Cards account, you can get a Star Stock account, but it almost feels like at that point, right? Like, especially if you do this part-time, like that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
How many different accounts do you want to sell cards if you don't do this full-time? So that's kind of where I think the issue is right now, Lou. And I do this, full-time and professionally, and I find it to be a little bit of a pain, what's going on out there.
Jeff asks, he's got $5K to spend on Jordans. Should he buy lower graded 86 Fleer Jordans or high grade 87, 88 Jordans?
Sure. So with $5,000, you're not going to really get much of an 86 Fleer Jordan right now. I think if you're lucky, you're going to get a 1 or a 2. And with $5,000 for 87 Fleer, you could get a couple PSA 8s. You could get a PSA 9 if you have another $4,000. So I would tell you, if you had $4,000 more to buy a PSA 9, 87 Fleer, if you don't, I would likely buy the Jordan rookie that you can afford at that level.
Chris brings something up here that I was interested in when you were talking about pricing earlier. When you go to different grades, I'm guessing he's talking about the ratio between prices for grades. And I'm guessing at some point in each card's grade, there becomes a value. In other words, going down one grade is a lot less cost than the grade above it. But, there's some room for value there, and there's some margin for gain there, and maybe even a bigger market. Like if the difference between a 6 is $500 on the card, well, I mean, it's all relative, of course. But knowing the price ratios between the grade of card can be useful in some situations, I would imagine.
Definitely. I started to use that 2 places, Lou. When I'm going to buy a really expensive card, or if I'm going to acquire a lot of one particular card, and I want to figure out if the pricing makes sense to me. Other than that, I don't use it just because I have a pretty good rule of thumb that I use when. Hey, what's up, Stephanie? When it comes to like the 60 to 70% moving up and down the scale, but that it doesn't always work. It works, most of the time.
If we go Jeff with his $5,000, should he be looking into a fractional ownership of a card?
If that makes you happy, certainly some good deals out there, right? The Mickey Mantle H is sold in Golden for 1.65, and I bought a share when it was like offered at 500,000. So that tripled. So I mean, listen, you're not crazy to do that. You got to do what you like.
Yeah, and again, I question the value of ownership if you're looking for ownership as opposed to investing. I just wonder how. I'm guessing people have a different relationship with owning a fractional share of a card.
Yep. I totally agree with you. Last comment I wanted to make for today, and let's give away some prizes with Dougie Fresh, is and I saw this from Jeremy Padower, who's on Instagram. He's really into like toys and Pokemon and stuff, but he's really insightful about collectibles. And I enjoy what he has to say, and try to drop it when I can. And so, not that he's the first person to say this, and certainly haven't thought this myself, but I want to give credit where it's due. He's the reason why I'm bringing it up today. So if you're serious about a space and you really love ball cards and you like baseball or basketball, whatever the case is, and you have some real money, the best thing to do is to think about what the holy grail is in that space. So if you collect modern Kobe basketball, then you want to know what the best Kobe card is to own. Doesn't mean you're going to buy it, but I believe from there you can then figure out, are you going to buy that, or are you going to buy the one below? And I think by understanding the grail, the holy grail in each space that you collect, even if you're not going to buy it, Lou, goes a long way to understand some of the actions or inactions that you're going to, take or not take.
Doesn't looking at the extreme though kind of skew your overall picture of the area in which you're collecting?
Say that one more time, Lou?
Doesn't looking at the extreme, in other words, the Holy Grail, because the Holy Grail is going to be in a whole different price point and a whole different ratio. Does that really help you with valuing the rest of the area that you're collecting in?
Oh, I believe it does, and I'll tell you why. So I'm making it up. If the Holy Grail of a Kobe Bryant card is 50,000, which we know it's not, but I'm just trying to use it.
Right.
And you have the next best Kobe, which is perceived by everyone to be Y, and that card sells for 1,000, and you're going to say to yourself, wait a minute, you're telling me, and let's just bring this up, the third best Kobe sells for 700.
Mm-hmm.
You're likely going to say, and astutely so, Lou, hey, even though I really can't buy that $50,000 Kobe, you're fucking telling me the second best Kobe is only $1,000?
Yep.
I'm going to buy that, and I feel really good about it. So
well,
that's where I think understanding the grail in each space is really knowledgeable. It's important to know, and you're going to be much better off for that, and thus your knowledge will serve you well.
That's kind of what I was thinking in the grade ratios, because you just put a great example on of a huge gap in the ratio from one card to the next, and that looks like an opportunity to me. Difference between $50,000 and $1,000 for a grade difference, that looks like opportunity.
Yeah, or a different grail. Once again, like rankings of the Kobe cards. So you don't own the grail, but you own the second best for 2% of the price. I mean, that's a joke.
Ray says that's what I did. Hey, Leighton, it's Ken Graff's on that. That's what I did to Brady. Couldn't afford a rookie, but I have a solid 30-year card.
Absolutely. Listen, I also think there's nothing wrong with looking at a rare parallel or numbered version of a card if you can't afford. Like I had this Hulk Hogan, that precious metal card. I love that card. It's just not his rookie. It doesn't really matter to me. Like it's just a great card. Speaking of which,
rookie cards in wrestling or anything?
They have rookie cards in wrestling, absolutely.
Yeah.
So here's our Gretzky O-Pee-Chee PSA 1 we just got back. It's actually not bad eye appeal for a 1.
That's a 1?
It's creased.
Oh, it's creased. I can't see it, but
yeah. But my buddy Darryl has one. It's filthy. This is much better looking. So you got to keep your eyes out, Lou. You never know.
Yep, I agree.
Great point, Rocco. So anyway, gang, thanks for tuning in today to Leighton's Loft. Let's give away some prizes. Dougie Fresh here.
Let's bring Dougie in.
All right, Dougie.
What's going on?
Doug, I just rolled it 4 times on the rando.
Okay. All right, here we go. That is 1.
Okay. Well,
that is 2.
So
that is 3. And 4. All right. Mike Pitts, Andrew Blevins, Dave Melcher, Todd Corpora, Jeff Spellman, Cody Cheek, and Nick Gable.
And before I sign off, congratulations all. Before I sign off, gang, I wanted to be the one to announce today because they always take my thunder in the office. We're going to be starting off the Wednesday 5:30 Vintage Breaks North show with some real fire. They're going to be having $1,000 briefcases. For those of you that are not familiar, if you spend $1,000 at vintagebreaks.com at checkout, you do get one of those briefcases. We understand that not all of our customers have $1,000 to spend at one time. So we do this fun thing where we'll take, let's say, 10 entries at $100. And as long as it closes by a certain time, we'll give one of those winners a chance at $1,000 briefcase. So we're going to do that right now, Lou. I told J5 I was going to announce it on the Loft. It's going to start now. It has to close at 6 o'clock, Dougie. So just let Sam know.
Okay.
The next 10 entries at $100, first come, first serve. We'll give away a $1,000 briefcase, which the gang will talk about in just a minute on Vintage Breaks North.
Okay, if you're on Vintage Breaks Facebook page or YouTube channel, that signal is up now. We're going to be leaving on Leighton's Loft, but just flip on over to the break for the rest of the night and get involved in all that action. Dougie, I like the blonde. Looks good.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. It was a great show, and I appreciate you tuning in.
See you in a few.
Yeah.